Good evening and welcome to APTN National News. I'm Savannah Kelly. The Nisgaa Nation in northwestern British Columbia has launched a civil suit against the Raven Clan Outlaws, an apparently self-proclaimed Indigenous organization. The Nisgaa say that some members of the Raven Clan Outlaws are wrongfully occupying an area of Nisgaa territory. The suit alleges Raven Clan is using its land to operate a ranch, off-grid farm, and raise livestock for sale, among other things. According to Raven Clan Outlaws' website, it does not recognize governmental legislation on traditional land. The Nisgaa are seeking an injunction stopping the group, a declaration their actions are wrongfully interfering with Nisgaa treaty rights and damages. APTN did not receive a comment from Nisgaa Nation by airtime. Raven Clan's Wilhelm Marsden, who's listed as a defendant, told APTN in a statement, the non-derogation clause of the Nisgaa Treaty says the treaty will not infringe on any other First Nations rights or title. We will be filing a response. A village councillor in PEI is being given more time to pay a $500 fine and apologize after he placed a sign on his property calling the discovery of mass graves at residential schools a hoax.
To this point, he's basically been non-compliant with the entire process, non-responsive in any way at all. He does have the option to comply with the sanctions that were imposed on him by his council and to remain as a councillor.
Councillor John Robertson has a week to take these steps or he will be forced to resign from his elected position. Robertson was criticized after a third-party review found he violated the code of conduct. Robertson said he was traveling and asked for more time. Assembly of First Nations National Chief Cindy Woodhouse marked the new year by receiving the highest honor for her leadership in a ceremony that took place on the Piikani Nation on New Year's Day. Woodhouse accepted the invitation to participate in the ceremony from Elder Leonard Weasel Traveler and Chief Troy Knowlton. The headdress transfer validates Woodhouse's achievements, and the eagle feathers are blessed to support her leadership for upcoming travels and challenges. In November, Hydro-Quebec introduced a new action plan that will focus on energy transition and respond to increased electricity demand. One of the priorities is to initiate partnerships with all First Nations in Quebec. Marcella Amador has more.
Évidemment, pour les véhicules électriques, on a besoin de batteries. Donc, on a besoin pour ces usines éventuelles de plus d'électricité.
Quebec Premier François Legault made that statement during a press conference for the inauguration of the Lac-Romaine hydroelectric complex in the province's Côte-Nord region, a few weeks before the release of Hydro-Quebec's Action Plan 2035. He triumphed the action plan as a true partnership.
Et une des choses que je suis fier, c'est de la façon que ça a été fait avec les communautés Innu.
As part of the plan, the Crown Utility and the Quebec government want to initiate a process of economic reconciliation with First Nations and Inuit. The goal, according to Hydro-Quebec, is to build true economic partnerships with Indigenous communities. However, at that same press conference, Chief Jean-Charles Pietachot of the Innu Council of Iqaluit addressed the issue of royalties, which is not spelled out in the plan.
On a été un des grands donneurs d'emploi. C'est sûr, c'est grâce aux ententes qu'on a eues. Mais reste, comme je vous dis, il faut repenser la façon de faire.
Pietachot told APTN News that he's had discussions with the public utility regarding any potential future hydro development on the Magpie River, also located in the Côte-Nord region of Quebec, about 164 kilometers from the Lac-Romaine complex.
Nous, on avait des préoccupations par rapport à certaines rivières, surtout dans ma région, c'est la rivière Magpie qui doit être protégée en totalité. Ne devrait même pas avoir un ouvrage sur cette rivière parce qu'elle est très, très importante. Elle doit rester telle qu'elle est.
In 2021, the Magpie River was the first river in Canada to be granted legal personhood to protect it from future development. The chief said that Hydro-Quebec and the government have assured him that there will be no work on the Magpie River. However, Pietachot is not convinced and would like to have a formal agreement in place.
Souvent, on nous dit qu'on va être consulté Mais c'est la façon de faire, c'est quoi les accommodements, c'est quoi le consentement, ça prend le consentement réellement.
After the action plan was announced, the Innu Nation released a statement emphasizing the need for consultation and the recognition of Aboriginal rights and title. Francis Labbé, a spokesperson for Hydro-Quebec, said the utility has been moving towards economic reconciliation for some time now.
Il y a eu des réactions partagées, par contre. Il y en a d'autres qui se sont dit enthousiastes par rapport à notre approche. Mais ce que je tiens à vous dire ici aujourd'hui, c'est vraiment, là, faut que tout le monde en soit convaincu. Les projets qui vont se faire en partenariat. Et ce ne sera pas des projets qui seront imposés. Et les discussions vont commencer dès maintenant. Et c'est déjà commencé d'ailleurs.
Gilbert Dominique from the Mashtouyatsbang Council said that ongoing discussions with Hydro-Quebec have been positive and added that for his community, the first step towards economic reconciliation is to build a relationship on a nation-to-nation basis with Hydro-Quebec, who represents the government's interests.
Avant, effectivement, de voir comment est-ce qu'on va déployer les projets et comment est-ce qu'après ça, on va venir rattacher les autres partenaires, parce qu'il va y en avoir d'autres là, dans notre aventure là, économique qu'on est en train de forger. Donc, c'est une approche tout à fait nouvelle d'Hydro-Québec. Puis je pense que c'est inspirant pour la suite des choses.
For Pieta Shaw, however, Hydro-Quebec still has a long way to go.
On connaît assez, on les connaît, parce que moi, ça fait des années que je les côtoie, puis il y a une méfiance, puis la confiance, elle n'est pas encore acquise à notre niveau, puis la réconciliation économique, on est encore loin, parce qu'ils nous entendent, mais est-ce qu'ils nous écoutent, c'est sa question.
Maricela Amador, APTN National News, Montreal.
We want to hear what you think about Hydro-Quebec's action plan or any other story you see here tonight. Here's how to continue the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. You can find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X, previously known as Twitter. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. In the Atlantic region, the inquiry into Innu children in provincial care, the North American Indigenous Games, and alleged identity fraud made headlines in 2023. Angel Moore brings us this recap.
On February 2023, the long-awaited inquiry of the treatment and experiences of Innu in the child protection system began in Tshakatche, Labrador. The Innu say displaced youth in provincial care have lost their language and culture, and 3 youths have died by suicide. The final report is expected September 2024. Elder Elizabeth Panache summed it all up this way.
For a long time, Innu have suffered.
Also in the region was the 40th Labrador Winter Games, held every 3 years in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, with over 500 athletes and 600 volunteers, featuring traditional games such as the dog sled race, a family tradition for Kayla Williams.
It's awesome. I think it's really important to teach them about the history of the dog racing in our family and to try to keep the tradition alive.
Later in the summer, Jabukduk, Mi'kmaq for Halifax, and the Millbrook First Nation hosted the 10th North American Indigenous Games, welcoming over 5,000 athletes and volunteers from over 700 Indigenous nations, competing in 16 sports at 21 venues held over 7 days. Devin Evans is from Norway House Cree Nation in northern Manitoba. His determination helped him make Team Manitoba.
So I was waking up 5 o'clock in the morning every day practicing, and then after that, eat and all that, do everything, and then I practice again later at 3 or 4. So I worked really hard to get here and to be on this team.
The next NAG will be hosted in Calgary in 2027. Spring in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick is Elver season. Elvers, known as baby eels, can be worth up to $5,000 a kilogram. Last April, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans shut down the lucrative fishery due to the violence and unrest. Adam Newell is from the Passamaquoddy Nation, known as Sabayak, located in the state of Maine. He says treaties take precedence over colonial laws as stated in the 17th century peace and friendship treaties.
But we have to continue this fight because our people died for it. Our ancestors fought and died for this, for us here today. And we're going to honor them. We're going to honor their deaths. We're going to honor that by continuing to fish in a very management way, in a very conservation way.
In New Brunswick, the Wolastoqey Chiefs announced a partnership with a foreign forestry company, the AV Group. The deal included forestry management and a land transfer. Yet at the same time, the group is one of 6 companies named in a lawsuit filed by the Wolastoqey Chiefs in 2021, seeking Aboriginal title to their traditional territory.
Not only to other forestry companies, but to all other companies who wish to sort of do business within this province. It isn't just the provincial crown you have to sort of build a relationship with. It's the original inhabitants of this land.
Last September, APTN News obtained an internal report titled Indigenous Identity Fraud within Native Council of Nova Scotia, or NCNS. Alleges more than 300 members of the NCNS should be removed. Part of it states that 300+ members cannot provide objectively verifiable evidence of Indigenous ancestry. This is 1/3 of the active membership. Native Studies professor Kim Tallbear says identity fraud in general is harmful.
Because this is one of the problems we have with pretendians. They insert themselves into positions of power. They use those identity claims in order to gain power, to gain positions, to gain access to grants, to hunting rights, to fishing rights. They're using it in order to get something.
In 2019, 4 NCNS members filed a class action lawsuit against the Nova Scotia government, asking for $40 million in damages and to reinstate moose hunting rights. The Nova Scotia Attorney General is appealing the class action certification. Those were some of the stories for 2023 in Atlantic Canada. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Jubuktuk, also known as Halifax.
We need to step aside for a short break now. Coming up, we speak with the director of a new upcoming Marvel miniseries with a largely Indigenous cast and crew.
I think the hope is that this is not the first Native American-led, high-profile TV show. It's just the first of many.
Welcome back to APTN National News. There's a new Marvel comic series ready to rumble. Echo, a female Native American character, aligned with the villainous Fisk, but luckily she isn't a total villain. Dennis Ward spoke with Sydney Freeland recently. She's Echo's executive producer and director.
Sydney, congratulations and thanks for taking some time for us. As an executive producer and director on Echo, which is based on a Marvel character and will run on Disney+, for our Indigenous audience here in Canada who are unfamiliar with Echo, can you give us a rundown about what the miniseries is?
Yeah, it's a story about Maya Lopez, who is a deaf Indigenous woman who was born on the Choctaw Nation in Oklahoma, and we explore her journey from being a deaf Indigenous girl in Oklahoma to becoming a high-ranking lieutenant in the underground world of Kingpin's army in New York City.
Now, of course, you have worked on some pretty big projects in the past that would be familiar to our audience here. Episodes of Reservation Dogs, Fear of the Walking Dead, your own feature film, Drunktown's Finest. Did you ever think, though, that you'd be working on a Marvel series for Disney?
No. I think I learned about this project the way everyone else did. I was aware of the casting of Maya Lopez for Hawkeye, and then when it was announced that the character of Echo was getting her own show, I remember reading the press release and thinking like, oh wow, that's great! They're going to make a TV series about Echo. It'd be so amazing to be involved in that, but there's no way I could get involved in that. Yeah, thankfully the stars aligned and I was able to come on board.
Well, the cast and crew is largely Indigenous. People like Devery Jacobs, Graham Greene, Tantu, many people. Can you talk about the importance of that at this time, and especially teaming up with Marvel and Disney?
Yeah, we have a heavy Canadian Indigenous presence in our show. It's been great. You know, I think there's a lot of great work that has come out of Canada in the past couple of years, and you know, in casting for the show, it was all about trying to find who best inhabited the characters, and you know, we looked everywhere, and it just so happened that we were able to get Graham and Tantu and Devery to all come aboard. Oh, and Cody Lightning too.
Right.
I'm sure I'm forgetting some more Canadian Indigenous actors, but heavy presence in the show.
The list is long, and it's quite a cast. Looking forward to that. What do you hope that this might mean for future Indigenous-led projects to have you know, Disney and Marvel on board here with this?
Yeah, you know, I think the hope is that this is not the first Native American-led, you know, high-profile TV show. It's just the first of many, you know. So I think in terms of our, you know, just seeing the huge amount of talent that is out there, both in front of and behind the camera, I think we're just scratching the surface in the number of Indigenous stories that can be told. So I'm very optimistic at future prospects.
Sydney, you know, you've been around the industry for quite some time. Would you say that things have been changing in recent years for Indigenous creators like yourself?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I think the change has been, you know, astronomical. I think just to give you an example of that is I worked on a TV show called Station 19, which is a spinoff of Grey's Anatomy, which takes place in the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, Washington area. And there's a huge Indigenous population in the Pacific Southwest, or Southeast, or South, yeah, the Pacific Northwest, sorry. And I remember the show, it was like, I remember pitching this idea of like, hey, what if we just had a character who just happened to be Indigenous, you know, and it just happened, I think we were able to cast a groundskeeper in a park that there was a day player that had a couple lines. And that's kind of where the landscape was just a few years ago, you know, like the fact that you get a Native American character to say a couple lines in a serialized television program, to Rutherford Falls, to Reservation Dogs, to, you know, to Prey, to Echo, and you know, and again, I think we're just scratching the surface because there's so many talented writers, directors, actors, actresses that have all come out of those projects I just mentioned.
Do you think there's an opportunity for a second season or second run of Echo?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I hope there's a lot more of Maya Lopez in the MCU after this.
You know, this is a Marvel and Disney property, but like you mentioned, they're creating an original Indigenous character. Do you think there will be more room here soon for original projects coming from Indigenous peoples?
Oh, I think they're already underway. You know. Indigenous filmmakers, Indigenous stories. There's so many already out there, and you know, that have already been created. That people, you know, I think hopefully like higher profile projects like this will spark people's curiosity to go and look at, you know, other Native Indigenous filmmakers, both in the U.S. and Canada.
Well, Sydney, congratulations again on this. It's quite an accomplishment. We appreciate you taking some time for us.
Hey, thank you very much.
All 5 Echo episodes drop on Disney Plus on January 9th. That's next Tuesday. Looking forward to that. We'll be right back after one final break, but still to come. 2 Indigenous musicians prepare to take the stage at an iconic event for a great cause.
Everybody's support is just, it means so much to indie artists, and it's just, I love everybody that takes a chance on listening to my stuff and the other co-writers.
Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Thanks to Rosanna Narcissus for today's photo. She took this just outside of Merritt, British Columbia, and beautifully captured some of the nighttime sky while riding shotgun in a truck. Send us your pictures to share@aptn.ca for a chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Over on the East Coast, 0 degrees and snow in Fredericton, -1 in Charlottetown. Nain, sunshine and -16, and Nukjuak -19. Val-d'Or, snowy and -7, Quebec City -10. Peterborough, sunshine -8, Sault Ste. Marie, flurries 0 degrees. Kapuskasing, snowy and -12, Sioux Lookout -10. God's Lake, flurries there, -10, Puckatawagan, -17. Dauphin, sunshine and -7, Gimli, same there, -7. Swift Current, sunshine and -3, North Battleford, -7. Stony Rapids, snowy and -26, Meadow Lake, -8. Snowy in northern Alberta, -17 in High Level, -20 in Fort Chip. Red Deer, 0 degrees and sunshine, Medicine Hat, -1. Penticton, 4 degrees there, Kamloops, snowy and +4. Fort Nelson, flurries there and -21, Smithers, -1. Watson Lake, snowy and -20, Old Crow, sunshine, -32. Norman Wells, snowy and -27, Wauti, sunshine, -33. Paulatuck, sunshine there, -30, Colville Lake, sunny as well, -36. Baker Lake, -28 there, Arviat, sunshine, -28. Iqaluit, snowy and -16, Resolute, sunshine, -27. When it comes to Canadian talent, the Kinsman Foundation's Tele Miracle has it all, with live performances from musicians, talented hosts, and esteemed guests. Reporter Rachel May spoke with 2 Saskatchewan artists who are excited to be part of the show.
For Saskatchewan musicians, Tele Miracle is a stage that many dream of performing on. For Dan Bigstone of Regina, that dream is becoming a reality.
That's something that I've always wanted to do, was to be on national television.
Tele Miracle allows artists from across Saskatchewan to perform on national television to raise money for the Kinsman Foundation. This is the second time the Big Stone is in the lineup for Tele Miracle, following last year's rendition of Chris Christopherson's Help Me Make It Through the Night. The 72-year-old is excited to be on stage again.
Well, if you've got a dream to do it, just go ahead and do it. Don't be afraid.
Since 1977, the Tele Miracle broadcasts have raised $159 million that goes to help children with complex medical needs access life-saving support. The show brings together communities across the province to showcase Saskatchewan's rich talent pool. This year, that includes White Bear First Nation's own Tegan Little Chief, as she was announced as a member of the cast.
I'm stoked. I'm pretty excited to see what comes with everything.
Little Chief was the winner of the Saskatchewan Country Music Awards Indigenous Artist of the Year for the past 2 years. When she's not in the studio recording covers of famous songs and making her own original work, Little Chief works as an addiction counselor and youth support worker.
Singles are the originals that I've started to come out with. A lot of my story is in there.
Little Chief just put out a new single in December called Need You to Go, which is set to hit radio on January 5th.
Everybody's support it means so much to indie artists, and I love everybody that takes a chance on listening to my stuff and the other co-writers.
The 20-hour Tele Miracle broadcast happens February 24th and 25th in Regina. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
Awesome stuff. Thanks for that report, Rachel. And that's all the time we have for your midweek news. For news anytime, head over to our website at aptnnews.ca. I'm Savannah Kelly. Marcy Miigwich, thank you for joining us this evening. Take care and have a great night.